Good morning, and thanks for joining us on the show. I'm Twanda Black, your host, and joining me this morning, Antwian Crawford. He is the founder and president of the Underground Poets Society, Incorporated. How are you this morning?
I'm wonderful, and yourself?
I am wonderful, wonderful. Poetry is just taking off. I think in the last 10 years, it has really grown to major proportions. And you remember in the old days, where they had the speakeasies and everybody was reciting with the little horns in the background. They had the ambience going, and you guys have taken that to a whole new level.
Yeah.
Tell us about the Underground Poets Society.
Well, the Underground Poets Society is a nonprofit. It's a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Started back in 2000. Just basically, as the Underground Poets Society first, not necessarily a nonprofit, but, I felt that I wanted to help other people and poets come up. And, basically, I've been working hard to do that. I created a website, created a poetry board where they can, not necessarily a board, it's like a real-time kind of thing where they can enter their information and their poetry, where other poets can comment on it and read it and stuff like that. So, it went on and it grew, so we decided to turn into a nonprofit, and again, with the same purpose, for poetry, education, and community development. And it just grew from there.
That's good. So were you always interested in poetry, or were you just a writer, or what?
Well, a long time ago, I used to write like hip-hop lyrics and stuff like that when I was in high school. I've been writing for over 20 years now, but, I just decided to turn it into, poetry. I just started turning it into poetry one day because I figured past a certain age, you get too old to just be rapping, So
You're right.
So I just took it another avenue. I always liked to write, so, I figured why not give it a try.
Well, it's definitely a performance art, and so tell us about that part of it, being able to go out and perform. And I see it here in Atlanta a lot. And by the way, you're in Fort Lauderdale, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You're in Fort Lauderdale. So we just wanted to let all of our listeners know here about this huge conference that you have. But here in Atlanta, we have a huge society of poets, a huge community of poets, and got a chance to judge and to sit in, to MC some of those different competitions. Man, it just blew me away. I'm sitting there just my mouth open, amazed.
Right.
Just amazed.
Well, it's definitely an amazing thing. Spoken word poetry. I'm more of a writer, but, I love all aspects of poetry.
Right.
Spoken word being one of them. I mean, it's more theatrical. It's just exciting to see, some of the lyricists that get up on stage and perform, Some of them even go as far as taking acting classes so that, they know a little bit about acting and things of that nature. But
you can tell.
Yeah,
you can
definitely.
Tell.
Like Saul Williams and things of that nature, people of that nature, that really do it well.
That adds a whole lot more to it, the effect of what they're saying, I think, too.
Exactly. I mean, it teaches them how to project their voices and, this, that, and the other. But, some of them, it just happens naturally for some of them. They practice and, work hard at it every day. And,
I love the females that just awesome. I can't even describe it. They're just awesome. Like, wow.
Yeah. There's quite a few of them out there.
Yeah, everybody's telling me, you talk for a living, you should be able to, no, I don't think I can do that. And what I mean is I'm not talking about just reading a poem.
Right.
They feel it, they've written it, they felt it, they probably lived it. And you just see their whole souls into this thing. And when they're performing, it's just on.
It definitely is.
Yeah. So tell us about the conference and everybody, Atlanta, all you wonderful poets here. We just want to let you in on this wonderful conference. We hope you know about it. Ran into one of my friends, Derek Wembley, the other day, and then he's known as Intellect here. And he does a whole lot of different things with poetry, has been doing it probably for about 15 years now. And he didn't know about it.
Really?
Yeah, he did not know about this. So.
Wow.
So tell us about the conference.
Well, first of all, there's a few poets from Atlanta that are coming down, spoken word artists.
Okay.
One of them being Tommy Bottoms.
Oh, I heard him before.
Yeah. He went to our last year's conference, and we really had a good time. Another one is Abyss Graham. There's Malik Salam, his wife Kim Salam. They're both coming down. So, last year we had Georgia Me come down from Atlanta.
All right.
So, it's quite a good connection that we have with Atlanta poets. But the conference is pretty much, like I said, I try to cover all aspects of poetry, not just spoken word, but the written word as well, where, we have workshops and things of that nature that teach people how to become better poets. Just learning the different styles of poetry, or, the different ways of just writing it, and, like haiku and tanka and things of that nature. So,
because a lot of people think poetry has to rhyme.
Yeah, and that's not the case.
Right, it's not.
I've heard it said that, some people think that rhyming is primitive, but not necessarily, because the way these guys rhyme in their poems, it's like, it's amazing. But
it's poetry.
You don't have to rhyme. No, definitely not.
Yeah.
But it's like, the new hip-hop, in other words, some people say, But, yeah, I mean, the conference is going to be great. We have like 3 poetry shows. We added some a hip hop showcase and a music showcase along with that. To me, music that has lyrics, anything like that, rap, all that stuff. I mean, it's all poetry to me. It all fits under the same poetic umbrella, as I would say. So yeah, that's why I include it all. Not just parts of it. Parts of hip hop or parts of just poetry or spoken word. I include it all.
Why a big conference?
Well, it didn't start out that way. It just I'm the kind of guy that once I get an idea, I like to run with it. And a lot of people were like, that were members of the Underground Poets Society were saying, well, why don't we have some kind of meeting or reunion every year that we can meet up and maybe recite poetry and things of that nature. And, I was thinking about it, and so many people were asking. I was like, well, let's do it. Well, one thing led to another, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and a lot of people started hearing about it and wanted to be a part of it. And, I called a few friends, like Tommy Bottoms and them. I called them and see if they wanted to be interested, were interested in coming down. And, next thing I know, I heard from Black Ice. So I said, why don't you just come on down? And, we all got together and had a great time.
Now, you're talking about award-winning poets, Black Ice.
From Def Poetry.
Right.
And also Black Ice, I've seen him, on open for Mary J. Blige, which is incredible.
Awesome. You got to think it's something worldwide. It's so global that Russell Simmons would, create those programs for that.
Right. And I think we actually started around the same time, because Russell Simmons started his Def Poetry around 2000 or a little bit earlier. But, I was starting the Underground Poets Society around that same time. I guess we just had the same idea and the same vision, but of course, it's Russell Simmons. He has, he knows people and has the connections, and
he has the money behind his vision.
And he has the money, exactly. Yeah. So, of course, he's going to excel faster at this than I did. But we have the same vision. It looks like,
Well, you know what? It's important to be able to have people at all levels be able to use their gifts and talents.
Yeah.
Whether you're up there at Russell Simmons or whether you're at home. And you're a poet that can perform and likes to share their work, So that's very important.